So these bikes are getting a lot of attention right now because this is the Harley-Davidson Nightster Special. And this one in particular is going to be your pre-owned bike of the week. So what's up, guys? I'm Isaac here at Back Road Harley-Davidson, and I have your pre-owned bike of the week, this Harley-Davidson Nightster Special. Now, since this one is pre-owned, it's got a couple extra custom features added onto it. So it does have the Harley-Davidson detachable windshield. This one's pretty cool because it has this detachable hardware, so it's not going to leave anything on the forks. So if you like to take your windshield off in the summertime and don't like having all that extra hardware on your bike, you can take it off pretty easy. This one also has this engine guard, so if you tip it over, it shouldn't scratch up too much. But other than that, I think this is pretty much all the stock features. Everything else is going to be stock on this bike, it looks like. We're going to talk on the ride about why people love the Nightster, the more in-depth features, but the couple highlights: it's powered by the newer Harley-Davidson Revolution Max 975 motor, and it is liquid cooled, so it's got that nice radiator right there. So it's going to be able to help keep itself regulated a little bit better on those hot summer days there at traffic lights. Another of the big features is that these bikes were set to replace the Sportster models of old. So if you want a Harley-Davidson Sportster, this is what you've got now. And these bikes are a little bit quicker, a little bit lighter, a little bit more agile, and they could be a little bit more fun. One of the ways that it actually feels a lot lighter than it is, which makes it phenomenal for newer riders, is actually where the fuel tank is located. So the fuel tank is not in what you might think is this. This is just an airbox cover. If you want to go to the fuel tank, you'll put the key in here, and then you'll lift up, and then boom, you've got over 3 gallons in here. So pretty good range, especially with the mileage that these bikes can get. If you ride them responsibly. So the center of gravity is much lower, so that way this bike's going to feel much lighter than it actually is and make it much more easier to handle. Now, another cool thing with these bikes is the tech. So it's a little bit wide, so these mirrors are a little past your shoulder, so it's going to be a little bit easier for you to see behind you, or at least directly behind you. But all this tech, so dive into more of that on the ride, but the tech is very, very similar to the Pan America. It's going to be pretty much the exact same control layouts. Biggest thing that this one doesn't have is this one doesn't have heated grips, but it is set up, so it's going to be a little bit easier to do it. And then it does have ride mode still, but it doesn't have your ride modes like your off-road mode. It's just going to have rain, road, sport, and then some custom ones, which we'll talk about here on the ride. And let's go ahead and do it. All right, let's fire this thing up, let it warm up here for you. So it just uses the hard key and a key fob. This is a little bit smaller than the old Softail keys, so it's going to fit in your pocket. Very easy. It does have a hard key. This hard key is what you use, like you just saw, to access the fuel tank and lock the forks. So you can turn all the way to the left, and then it's much harder to snag this bike from the parking lot. But we'll leave it unlocked because I want to be able to turn the bars. So they just drop right in your pocket. Oh, got my key with me. So a little size comparison here. A little bit smaller. A bit slimmer profile, I think. So go ahead and fire this thing up here for you. You'll see it does that nice little display. I'm going to put it in neutral. Fire it up. There you go. So when you first start these bikes, it's going to have the revs are going to be a little bit higher because it's helping itself warm up a little bit faster. So that way it can be ready to go for you a little bit sooner. But then what you'll do, either on its own or if you pull the clutch in, you'll hear it drop the RPMs just a little bit for you. So when you go to put in gear, it'll automatically do that. Or when it reaches when it feels like it's reached the right temperature, it'll go ahead and do it as well. Yeah, I'm super excited to ride these bikes because they have gotten a lot of attention lately. And, you know, when you see bikes that get a lot of attention, sometimes you really want to go and see what they do for yourself. One of the only gripes I have about this bike is the kickstand. So it's a little bit weird because it's easy to snag the shift linkage right there. So you want to make sure you're actually getting the kickstand, but easy adjustment. Another thing I'm noticing is it's a very narrow profile, so it's going to be nice and slim. So that's one thing that a lot of people overlook. A lot of people, when they're looking for a new bike or their first bike, they're so focused about the ride height and what the seat height is going to be. But what they don't look at is how narrow the bike is. Because if the bike's a super low seat height, but it's really wide, if I've got short legs, and that's going to be tough. But this one's a little bit lower seat height and it's narrow, so that way I don't have to have my legs quite out as far. So it's a little bit more friendly for those shorter riders. Now, a lot of people love or hate the tech. This one does have a lot of good safety features on it as well. Ride mode. So we're going to start this one in Looks like it only has road or sport activated. We're gonna leave it in road just so that way it's a little bit smoother of a ride, because we're not gonna really crank on it quite yet. Braking's good. You've got Brembos all the way around. I'm gonna adjust these mirrors so that way they're actually worth something to me. If you're coming off of a big twin, one of the hardest things to get used to is how much input you have to give it on the throttle and clutch. Because if you're used to like big twin soft tail, and all you've got to do is just crack the throttle and ease the clutch out, then you probably stall this bike pretty easy. It's a rev max, and so this one revs, so like on my soft tail, that one should only rev up to around 5,000 or so RPMs, right? But on this one, it can rev up over 8,000 RPMs. Right? Another thing is it does have the universal turn signals, so it's just going to have that one little switch there on the left. So again, if you're starting out riding and trying out a handful of different bikes, then it might feel a little bit easier to get used to on that. All right. This thing's it's just so smooth. It's geared a little bit more towards newer riders, because if for a new rider, there's not a whole lot of great options in the 25 lineup. Unless you want a cruiser. But now even the cruisers are 117s, which on one hand, you know, you might not think the 117 is the best bike to start out with. And you should probably get a little bit more experience where you go hop on a 117. But the nice part about that is those bikes have ride modes now. So you can ride it in rain mode, which is a much more dialed back version and much more forgiving than, you know, sport mode wide open on a 117. So, and that's kind of one of the nice parts about this bike too, is that it can grow with you. So you can leave it in rain mode while you get used to it, and then once you feel more comfortable and confident with it, then, you know, go ahead, crank it up, access to more power, and then it's like you've graduated to a whole nother bike without having to buy another bike, you know. All right, this one leans good. I love the old Harley-Davidson Sportster as much as the next guy, but there's just something fun about being able to just crank it open. It's also a 6-speed. Let's check this out. Look at that. Now we're in cruise mode. We would have had that thing wide open in 5th gear the whole time. So just being able to have that 6th gear for the highway is pretty nice. That's already got a leg up over the old Sportsters. Also, you've got a fuel gauge. You've got all this tech here, which we'll talk about more. And like I said, it's very, very similar in layout to the Pan America and how all the tech is on that bike. But one of the great things about this bike is just how smooth it is. I will admit, when you first crank these things up in the showroom, they don't sound the best. They don't sound the best. But once you get them warmed up, and especially when you have these bikes wide open, they sound pretty good. Another thing people love about these bikes is they're still very Harley-Davidson. So you get all the lovely support from owning a Harley-Davidson, but also these bikes don't require as much maintenance as you might with the more traditional sport bike. So that's another big thing to think about. So if you were to go and get another sport bike somewhere, because you like something that's a little bit sporty, but you really like a cruiser riding position, then that's, you know, really where this one does good work. Let's squeeze in right here. So two of the biggest things that are going to help with this bike is as a Harley-Davidson, so you have the Harley-Davidson dealer sports. There's a ton of dealers all over, and they're always looking to help you out. But also, there's no chain. Well, there's the final drive is a belt instead of a chain, so it's much less involved maintenance. You don't have nearly as much maintenance you have to do to it, so that's a huge advantage. So when you're starting out riding, you don't have to worry about chain maintenance, not learning all that stuff. It's just a lot easier to get used to, because you just have to make sure it's tight and doesn't have any signs of damage or anything. That's about it. And the other big advantage is how this motor is set up. And so you don't have to do valve adjustments like you do on a lot of your traditional sport bikes. So that's a big cost you're saving yourself right there, especially if you're trying to hold on to the bike for a little while, put a bunch of miles on it. Alright, we're going to throw this bike in sport mode. Easy as that, just tap the button right there. See, it goes up in sport mode. And what on earth is that thing? I'm going to ease up a good bit for this guy. Braking's good, power's good. It's very lightweight, very manageable. There's a reason that these bikes are getting to be so popular. Oh, okay. This sport mode has come to party. Yeah, so the biggest difference, there's a lot of differences between the specials and the standards on these. The biggest, there's a few style changes, but one of the biggest changes is going to be, of course, having this display. On the standards, it's going to be much similar to the display that's found on the new Softails, with an analog speedometer and then your other readouts in there. So you'll still have ride modes and all those fun things, but you won't have all of this up here. So I don't think you'll have cruise control. I think the special gets you cruise control and then all these other fun things in here, so it connects your phone to and stuff like that. But either way, both will get you out here and cruising on the road. Because right now in the 25 lineup, the Nightster Standard is the most affordable Harley-Davidson. So, you know, if you're looking for, if you've got a smaller budget you're working with, especially on your first motorcycle, then, you know, that's a great option. But also these bikes are, if you already have a big bag or something like that and you just want something more fun to go throw around and rip around town on, then I'd recommend checking one of these things out. That was fun. This windshield does good work too. I like it. I didn't even think about it while we were riding. It's a comfortable riding position. Really, I don't think you really need to go up much higher on these bars. You can, of course, it'd be fun. But as much power as this bike can put out, you almost need this. Well, you really kind of need this this riding position. It lets you really it lets you stay set up a lot better to handle this bike's power. I'm a big fan of this motorcycle's display. I was just in second gear. I'm a big fan of this motorcycle's display because I like big speedo, easy to see, analog tack, and then I have all my other things I can see. So right now it's displaying as my fuel range, below that my fuel gear. It's also got my clock in the bottom left, and then in the bottom right it has my fuel gauge. Now, the button over here, that's just on this side of me, of the, what is it, the heated grip button there. That one I can change to see some of the other features on this bike. So I can see my trip A, and I assume what's going to be a trip B as soon as I get stopped. Braking's so good. Trip B, my odometer, which you'll see this bike has just over 800 miles on it. and then back to my fuel range. All right. Now, if I want to go into more stuff, tap this pages, and if I have my phone connected, I have the HD app, I can go to maps. If I have my headset connected, I can control my music, and also I can do my bike diagnostics. So I can see the front and rear tire pressure, the bike temp, and the voltage readout, and I can run those diagnostics on the bike a little bit easier. Ton of settings I can go into, but I can just tap home and bring it all back right there. So that is the Nightster screen in 10 seconds. Sport mode's kind of fun. Sport mode's where it's going to give you the most power output, obviously. Let's see. Yeah, this thing rips. Uphill too? Wow. This little thing's got some pep, and it corners really nicely. That's really nice. It just leans right on in and goes. Got the bright orange tank. Looks cool. It's a sharp looking bike. And hey buddy. When you're riding, do you ever see a car that looks a little bit too pointed right at you? Like, the car looks like it's just going straight at you, and you're like, hey, I should probably go ahead and start getting to the outside of this lane, because they're probably about to come across the center line. It's always good to trust your instincts on that one there. Got the Subaru. This thing corners nicely. It has cruise control too, so I can set it by, can use this button up here, thumb up there, and then tilt back. Yeah, and then we're at cruise control. Okay, and then to turn it off, I can just hit that button, or I give it a little bit of brake. Definitely takes a lot of adjustment to get used to these hand controls there. I think one of the biggest things I like is the one touch, the little twist to turn off right here. I'm a big fan of that one. I like that more than the bagger one touch, I think. So there's one thing to keep in mind if you're someone that puts your helmet up on your mirrors here a lot, is with that one touch, sometimes you can accidentally put the bike in run position by setting the helmet on top, where it's a lot harder to do that on this because you have to manually twist that, or like flick that switch and then hit the starter. So, but that's easily fixed by not putting your helmet up there, which isn't really recommended to do anyway, because if you drop your helmet, then you have to buy a new expensive helmet. Let's see. This thing's kind of fun. I'm kind of enjoying this bike. It's nimble. It's a very cool day, so it's a very cool spring day right now, so it's not a great day to be able to really see how it does in this traffic. But let's see, you'll have to ride it again unless you come and get it before then. The suspension feels great. Love how this bike rips. I mean, we didn't really get to take those corners very quick, but I mean, it's so light and flickable. A low center of gravity with as slim a profile as this bike is. I mean, I would be very interested to see how this bike does on a run to the mountains. And if you got the engine guards, a little bit taller risers wouldn't be bad. You can go ahead and prop your feet up out there, spend some longer saddle time. That'd be nice. It's got ABS too. Look at that. Ooh. It's just so narrow, and it's a small bike, but it's got enough power that it's so much fun to ride. If you don't watch the Cruisy Originals channel, highly, highly recommend, because there's some of the guys that are really kind of leading the front of showing what you can do with these bikes. And it's just a cool channel to watch anyway. But what they've done with the Nightsters is very impressive work. And I want to say it's them that were saying that they were really comparing this closer to a dyno than a Sportster, because it's set up in a way, at least in the feel, they were saying a lot of it just felt a little more dyno than Sportster. And how this bike performs, it performs much closer to your big twins than your Sportsters, or your Sportsters of old. I mainly mean by, just like your highway speeds. I mean, it's got a 6 gear. It doesn't have to be wrung out all the time, and it's quick. And your feet are right up underneath you too. Great suspension, great ride. This is a right fun little bike. So if you're a new rider and you're weighing a lot of options, I would come and check one of these out. Sit on it, see what you think. And like I said, it's Harley-Davidson, so the customization options are almost endless with what you can do with the Harley-Davidson motorcycle. Because you can get that bike, if you like the bike, you can get it dialed in exactly to how you want to ride. So if you just want a good commuter bike, it's phenomenal for that. Great at commuting. But it's got the power and the comfort and the other fun features to be able to be a bike that you don't mind riding out all the way to the mountains on a weekend here and there. Throw some luggage on it and get it out there. But yeah, we'll give you one quick walk around before we park this thing. But this is the Harley-Davidson Nightster Special. Leave it running here. Check it out. So, if you have any other questions about this bike, one of the, just an awesome machine that's a lot of fun to go ride around, then come see us and come see this bike. We'd love to talk about the Nightster with you. Oh, did I mention the tire pressure monitoring too? So you have to go crawling all around on the tires to see what your tire pressure is. So when you're doing that pre-ride inspection, you can do it from the screen there. And bike's liquid cooled, so it handles the idling fine. LED lighting all the way around. So when you're looking for a new bike, this bike checks a lot of boxes. Lower seat height, nimble, a lower center of gravity, bright LED lighting, excellent braking, ride modes, a 6-gear bike that can grow with you. Is set up for a passenger, which if something you might want to do eventually. Minimal maintenance, so you don't have to do your valve adjustments. And like I said, you've got that rubber belt over here on the left, so for that final drive, so you don't have to, so there's no chain maintenance. It's just making sure that everything's all set. And then on the specials, you get all that fun tech. So definitely a bike worth checking out. If you want to know more about the Nightster, then be sure to come see us here at Tobacco Road Harley-Davidson. But in the meantime, ride safe, and we hope to see you out here to come see a Nightster sometime soon.